Fans have been waiting for this moment since 2018. Santa Monica Studio has finally delivered. God of War is coming and we couldn't be happier. But some fans aren't as happy as you would think. We've all seen some games are so hyped up and our expectations are so high, but when you start playing the game, it turns out to be a massive scam. OG fans are worried that Ragnarok might be reaching its limit. But in today's video, we'll be talking about how the game deserves all the appreciation it can get. The amazing plot. What do you think makes or breaks a video game? The story, of course. God of War has always blessed us with top-of-the-line narratives. The way the game manages to add mythological characters and stories is always a pleasure to witness. Ragnarok gives us nothing less. Rather than the usual Greek mythology, we'll be treated to a whole new set of characters, all thanks to the Norse lore. How can something so interesting ever be overrated? So let's talk about the game's plot. Ever since the finale of God of War in 2018, a lot of time has gone, as proven by an older, more self-assured Atreus, whose giant genes are starting to appear. It's strange to see him like this because we're so used to seeing him as a tiny little guy. Ragnarok, the epic Norse doom, must be faced by father and son together. It will begin as the historic Fimbulwinter, which lasted 3 summers, came to a close. The father and son tag team will be meeting old rivals like Freya. We had killed Freya's son at the end of the last game. Now she's out for blood. Honestly, what's new? The 2018 game danced around us meeting the god of thunder, but not in this one. We'll finally meet the Aesir god Thor. Our shrunken head buddy Mimir referred to him as the biggest butchering bastard in the 9 realms. Let us assure you that is not an understatement. Thor was the main god behind the massacre of the giants. This will be an exciting plot point, and we want to see how Atreus will handle this. After all, he is half giant. New realms. God of War 2018 was epic enough. We didn't think it could get better, yet Sony have found a way to one-up themselves. Remember that we could only visit 6 of the 9 realms in the previous game. This isn't the case anymore. With Vanaheim, Svartalfheim, and Asgard tossed in for good measure, the storyline will cover the 9 realms. We're just as thrilled as you are. Exploring the realms will lead you to various environments, such as lush, exotic forests and sophisticated underground mining tunnels. We don't know about you, but playing in Asgard sounds so fun. Think about it. You'd see the infamous Valhalla, Odin's house, and the resting place of heroes killed in combat on Earth. Thrudheim, Thor's realm, and Breidablik, Baldur's land. Sony, just like Naughty Dog, does out-of-this-world graphics, so rest assured that these realms will be a feast for the eyes. These new plot lines will ensure that there is never a dull moment for the players. Sony really knows how to keep its players on their toes. New characters. What do you think makes a game dull? Predictable characters are a widespread answer. The last couple of God of War games had the same few characters coming up repeatedly. Ragnarok has added new characters into its franchise, giving it a fresh outlook. Angerboda, for instance, is one of the game's intriguing new characters. You'd be mistaken if you believed all the giants had been killed by Odin's army. Angerboda is one of the last living giants to inhabit the 9 kingdoms. And what about Tyr? This name may sound unfamiliar, so allow us to bring you up to speed. He is Odin's son and Thor and Baldur's half-brother. His own father had confined him in a small cell. We believe this will be a pivotal plot point in the game. How can this game ever be overhyped with so much family drama going on? Tyr's relationship with this father will serve as an excellent parallel to Atreus and Kratos' relationship. Let's see which pair comes out unscathed. Our bet is on Kratos and the boy. Loki has entered the chat. Okay, so we have Thor, Odin, Tyr, and Freya, but something seems to be missing. It's Loki, of course. At the end of God of War, Faye, Kratos' wife and Atreus' mother, was revealed to be a giant named Laufey, meaning that he is half giant and half god. Do you know what his giant name is? Loki. Yes, Loki. You heard that correctly, god of the Norse trickster. People seem to have very differing opinions about this development. Some think it was wholly unnecessary, and Sony is just muddling up a very straightforward plot. They claim that Atreus was already powerful enough, and making him Loki is just overkill. Many believe that Sony is trying to use the pre-existing hype surrounding Loki thanks to the Avengers, and are using it for their own advantages. While we see this side of the argument, making Atreus Loki can be an exciting plot for the game, because Ragnarok will explore this issue in depth, uncovering more about Faye's hidden history and why she chose to keep it concealed in the first place. This will add dimension to Faye, who is just now known as the mom who died. This character building truly is what sets apart God of War as a fantastic game. Other than that, this will also help add to Atreus' character. Right now, we know him as Kratos' child with significant anger management issues. Pretty one-dimensional, but this new development will definitely help him grow and take his responsibility as a god. You can't tell us that all that doesn't sound interesting to you. Combat. Something God of War has never gotten wrong is their fighting sequence. The game has always used the top-of-the-line graphics to ensure that the fighting scene always flows naturally. Sony has always prided itself on this, and we don't blame them. Many gamers believe that God of War's combat isn't as good as other games, but hear us out. The fighting in God of War 2018 was already superb, but Eric Williams revealed in an interview with IGN that Ragnarok will improve on it in various ways. One example is improving the toolkit to allow more variety so that players may be more expressive in battle. The game's creators desired greater type in the fighting sequence. Sony officials claim that they went for a lot of variety to have more. Ragnarok tries to give the players more freedom of expression, especially with Kratos. The expressiveness will come from various sources, including the growth of gear and technology. All of this adds to what makes God of War such an enjoyable game. With its perfect balance of storytelling and fight scenes, it is anything but overhyped. In fact, we think that the game deserves more credit than it's getting. New and improved enemies. Players keep commenting on an issue in the previous game. The enemies were so bland. They had absolutely no substance to them. Their one and only goal was to present as a minor inconvenience for Kratos as he tried to move from point A to point B. The game also really hyped up the villains as these tough boss fights, but in reality, they were just 2 or 3 combos away from being killed. Sony listened to this issue, and the new God of War Ragnarok will have enemies who will be more prepared to deal with any dangers presented by players. To deal with creatures, you will need special tools, otherwise you won't be able to win. Some monsters have new abilities, and you'll have to decide whether to eliminate them with Atreus first or with Kratos. So we ask you to give this game a try. You'll see that the game's enemies aren't overhyped. We assure you that fighting Thor will probably be one of the most challenging fights you will ever have. God of War Ragnarok's vertical environment. The hallmark of any good game is the overall environment. That doesn't just include the characters and how they look, but even the tiny things like shadows and reflections. God of War always has an impeccable and diverse environment that we think deserves all the credit it can get. Especially the introduction of their vertical environments has completely revamped the game's whole look. We saw that Kratos utilized his Blades of Chaos as a grappling hook to raise himself up to a higher ledge in God of War Ragnarok. This mechanism allows for a more King of the Hill style combat. No doubt that vertical environments are particularly tricky to design and animate, but Sony has somehow accomplished this. Due to this, each scene seems like a cinematic masterpiece. It gives the game a more realistic and expressive feel to the players. We are all entitled to our own opinions. While we may think that God of War is certainly not overhyped, some may not agree. To each their own. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think the game is overhyped? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.